Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
Western Fort,
We were here, so
and I guess they didn't know that.
It's good. I thought it was going to come get you.
Until they got
So, everybody look at, if you look over here, see the barn over there?
Yeah.
The old, with the kind of the reddish tin.
Yeah.
That's the Widow Pence farm.
Okay.
That's actually owned by the foundation. It was a log cabin back then. As a matter of fact, if you go in the building, you can still see that it was a log cabin, okay? You can still see the walls. But you see just to the right of that on the top of the hill, there's a barn there. By the way, I've been paid to tell you they make great sandwiches.
If we all show up in the driveway.
I'm kidding. Well, I'm not. They're great sandwiches, but I'm not being paid, okay? So if you look at the Confederate line, it stretches here across the road and right over onto that high ground to our left there.
Wow.
So Isaac Tremble is there with his regiments, and he sends a courier over to Dick Ewell, his boss, and says, "I can't see the enemy very well. Do you mind if I move forward?" So he moves roughly to that next rise where that hay bale is.
This right here?
Yeah, he moves from the very top of the hill in the distance to there roughly. And
Wow.
he gets there and he says, "I still can't see well." So this time there's controversy as to whether or not he actually asked permission or just said, "Oh, he's far enough away. Yeah,
Beg forgiveness.
beg forgiveness." So he moves out here. And as he moves out here, his troops set up on this line going in this direction.
He made a good move.
Trimble.
He made a good move. But when he gets here, you see the aluminum building roof on the right there? When he gets here, he notices some motion up on the hill. So the order goes out, everybody get down. And everybody crouches right here along this fence rail.
Yeah, about 1,300 men.
Yes.
You have 3 regiments along here, and again, they're scattered out. So there's a marker down the way that would kind of mark that right flank of the brigade, and then the left flank would be down at another marker on the other side of those cedars. So they've got a pretty good stretch here, and they're in some places double, but mostly single rank. But again, they're crouching down. Some guys get down and they pick up leaves. This was wooded. So they go out and grab leaves and push them in underneath to help conceal even more than poke the rifle through the leaves. And then they had also a rifle rest. So this is a killing field in front of us, or about to become a killing field.
Were they lying down?
Yeah.
I also would like to add, as a graduate of the University of Mississippi, the 16th Mississippi here is the
Yes,
only
they were.
Mississippi unit to take action during Jackson's Valley campaign.
Which would have been down there.
Thank you, Michael.
This is the 21st
Did they serve
Georgia,
sandwiches
and the
too?
15th Alabama. The 15th Alabama is at the other
Right.
end.
Remember they started, the 15th Alabama was where we started. They go all the way around and end up over there, okay? So, and
For the moment.
for the moment, right. So the 8th New York is the lead regiment coming over that hill. And we're in trees, but that's open ground as far as you can see back then, okay? And they kind of disappear. Now, what at least the commander had the common sense to do is he sent out some skirmishers. And so once they disappear, you don't really know what they're doing, but if your skirmishers start firing at them and then they retreat back here, what does the 8th New York do?
The 8th North never deployed skirmishers.
Right.
They came down that hill in parade line
Yes.
with no skirmishers. The colonel it was reported that people could see the colonel was walking backwards, making sure that those lines were very precise.
Exactly.
Now we have to understand that the 8th New York are predominantly, if not wholly, German out of New York. If you looked at the casualty lists and all, every name, there's not a name that you could find that doesn't scream German. Wow. All right, so they even talk about they're doing marching songs coming down the hill because that's part of their heritage.
Beer drinking.
Well, beer drinking too, yeah. That's after the battle and sometimes before. But no skirmishers, that's the main thing to understand. These are green troops.
Oh.
All right,
yeah.
a lot of the troops on this battlefield were green.
Yes.
This is their first battle.
Yeah.
Their commander says, don't worry about the skirmishers.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We chased them off.
As a matter of fact, when they run up against the skirmishers the Confederates had sent out, they think they've run into the line of
Yeah.
Confederates. So they start pushing them thinking, that's it.
Smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So what would the range of, like, when would they
We're
start
about
firing?
to show you.
Oh, okay.
No, you're good. No, you're good. This was either wheat, buckwheat, it's been referred to a number of ways. We passed some wheat fields on the way here. Understand, here it is, a day off the anniversary date, that modern wheat has a shorter stalk. So that stalk at that time, it would have been definitely at least knee high, maybe thigh high on a lot of the men coming through. And the various orders were given along here. One general or colonel reportedly said, don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. Another one said, don't shoot them until you see their feet. That was going to be hard if they're coming up, up to your knees. But they figured it out when things happen. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Half and half?
Half and half.
By the way, you're all going to be the opportunity to present both sides of this fight. Some of you are going to stay up here as Confederates, and the rest of us are going to go down Unionists. Come up, and then we'll switch so you can see both perspectives. You are the first to a group, to enter that property.
Yes.
Oh, that's
well, you and I and Steve did it.
Yeah, we weren't necessarily
It's a VIP tour.
Yes, exactly.
So I'll take half for the first trip down, and the rest of you stay here, and then we'll switch. But to give you that visual of coming up this hill from both sides, what
How
you
many
can see
do
and
we
not
have,
see.
roughly?
We have about 20 if we
20?
haven't lost anybody.
So if the first 10 could go with Jim and the rest, you're unfortunately stuck with me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
No.
7, 8, 9. We can take one more.
No, I think we're good.
We're good?
Yeah, we're good. So what they're going to demonstrate is they're going to go down over the hill and then work their way up. Now, remember they talked about that Alabama regiment on the far right? When the 8th New York comes out, that Alabama unit is actually beyond the end of the New York line. So when these guys rise up to shoot them, those guys are firing on their flank. So it's a death trap.
The 15th Alabama, when they predominantly sharpshooters,
A lot of them had, what do they call them? Mississippi rifles.
something like that.
Okay.
They were pretty-
Actually, two
Squirrel
companies
hunting.
were, that's what, the two companies they sent out as skirmishes over here, the reason they were sent out as skirmishes over by, by the church is because they had Mississippi rifles.
Really?
Yes. And they were much more accurate.
Absolutely. When-
I would think a young man from Mississippi would know that. No, I'm just kidding. Have you ever fired one? Because I haven't.
I have not, no.
Neither have I.
Now, was the artillery still sitting on that hill?
Right over there. See
They,
where
they
the
were
opening
just they were just silenced because they were aware that we were.
They were
That-
doing
the-
counter battery from here to about where this old schoolhouse is. You can't quite see anymore on the right.
Okay, so they were firing over there.
They're firing back here. But
But-
like I said, the line has moved up here.
Okay.
There's signage down there now that didn't used to be there.
Yeah.
But as you look, as those people start to come up out of that hollow, these guys have got they've stuffed leaves in, they've got their guns right on
I,
top of
I
these.
would imagine there'd be a lot of muttering in the ranks of holy.
Exactly.
What have they let us into?
I'm curious what they have here now. Yeah, it says no skirmishes was a constant mistake. Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the casualties that take place at this battle are from one regiment.
Was it
So-
80% of the regiment, right?
It's more like 70%.
Okay.
Of course, there are a lot of wounded and everything out here too, not just killed. But some of them had multiple bullet wounds, of course, because you got fire coming in from way over there, fire from right here in that direction. So you see where they're standing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start to get the idea because, if you wait to the whites of their eyes, no.
No,
But if
that's
you
not
wait
what-
as they start walking forward, when do you shoot? they're pretty darn close by the time you stand at the loose volley, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the beauty with that smooth bore that only 50 to 80,
Yeah.
80 yards, it was primal killing ground.
Oh yeah.
Over there, 50 to 80 yards wasn't as significant as a rifle round, so that's why it was a killing ground here.
Well, Nathaniel Banks had been kind to give them some rifles, guns, but a lot of the men that were fighting here were still using fucking balls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Kind of just.
So this is this when you'd fire?
Oh, depending on.
I would wait even longer.
Yeah, I was gonna say depending on the weight, I'm probably gonna wait just a little
Well, it
bit.
depends on how many ranks there are, you
Yeah.
know,
And then
how
you
many
gotta-
rows. I mean,
then
you
you
don't
gotta
really
remember,
want to
we're
wait
down
for
just
them
for
to get
space.
on
Yeah.
up there because the second row is going to keep coming and the third row. And
Yeah.
But I don't even think you're far. When you're down at this, you got that little bit of a knoll, so when you're going chest high with the wheat, probably 10 or 15 more yards. That's why they got murdered here.
But what gets me is you're down here,
Mhm.
you're firing, then you got to
Then
reload.
you got to reload.
Yeah.
I mean, and this thing's standing as tall as your,
Absolutely.
you know.
And these, you know, they don't make good, you know, it's not a great
No,
protection.
no, it's not like a stone fence.
Somebody
Splinters.
said about every other bullet
Yeah.
might hit the fence rail, but then that's that odd bullet that's going to kill you. You know what I mean? But he didn't record a lot of casualties. And the
Yeah.
odd thing is, after they destroy this regiment and they rout out, what's going to happen is the Confederates here are going to continue to go in that direction. The Confederate, right at the Confederate line is there. By the time they're done, you could measure 1.25 miles between here and where the next Confederate line is. If you want to do something really stupid in a battle, is you want to open up a giant gap
Yeah.
and invite people to exploit that gap. Fremont, he's got troops attacking over here. He hears all the commotion here, and what does he do? He calls them back.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. No.
Probably saves a lot of lives.
He did, yeah.
You know, because otherwise they'd be trying to assault that hill over there and getting mowed down. So Fremont did do a favor to some of the troops, actually the majority of his troops over there. What's interesting is there's actually 3 more New York regiments behind them. And the composition of the regiments are very interesting because you had Asians, there were some Chinese in the regiments,
Really?
there were some folks from India, a lot of Europeans, not just Germans, some French, some African French, I can't remember what they called. But what happened was a lot of those regiments were raised in New York City. And what they did was follow me. And they ended up with a very much a hodgepodge of members of some of those regiments out there. And like I said, there are actually Chinese out there. They're fighting for the Union. And what happened to the Chinese after? They weren't treated all that well.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you're up to it, we'll take a little trip out here.
Yeah.
So you guys survived.
Yeah.
We were just starting to load.
The Confederate troops are beginning to get Oh, well, you're late. We'll let you take your group. Yeah.
It's too bad we were here last week. The grass was this tall, and really, because you know, if it's that much taller as they start to come out of them, that's really the impression you should have.
Yeah, they didn't get to bring their John Deere tractor. Just mow it right down. And
Mr. Pete, there's still an existing Civil War house. Is anybody thinking about getting a hold of that in the future?
I don't know.
I can't remember the name of the house, but it's still existing.
As Craig Moran would say, don't tell Kevin.
You know Craig? Okay. I like Craig.
You're on the tour. I was on the bus with them and Jackson as we're going through West Virginia. We kept seeing places.
I hear
And they
that.
kept going, don't tell Kevin. Craig's like, don't tell Kevin. Don't tell Kevin. And then we seen like this 1600 house imploded, and they're like, for God's sake, don't tell them about that house. That house was unfixable. It was funny.
All right, we got to get down here
Yes,
or
sir.
so. Yeah. Get down, you soldiers.
I'm not sure if that was he was signaling me. So can you imagine? There's a stream that runs through there. During a warm summer, you wouldn't even notice it. But on one of the wettest springs in the valley's history, they would have come down off that hill, no trees, into that. Skirmishers, they would be shooting at them, and they start retreating, and these basically greenhorn soldiers say, we got them on the run. And they, if you look now at those guys, you wouldn't even have seen their heads.
Oh yeah, they're down the fence row.
Yeah, I mean, they're standing up. If they'd been down in the fence,
He's waving.
and you're 15th Alabama, way over there. So you can imagine once they come up here, they're going to stand up, swing out, and fire on their left flank. And then once these guys, and it's coordinated, so, you know, you have about 400 men, they're going to drop really quick, in the course of just a few minutes.
Wow.
And if you look at all the casualties that took place here, the majority are in the 8th New York Regiment that's slaughtered right here. So,
Now we can see why this piece of land is so instrumental in saving.
yes, and why it's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, you have interpretive signs now that you wouldn't have had, back then. The signs go way up there.
I remember standing up there and looking over this land and going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember just driving down, what is it, 256? So this is Cross Keys. All right, don't blink.
Have you folks been to what's left of Cross Keys? If you were to go drive right by the Union Church, continuing on, on Cross Keys Road, there's a road that kind of angles off to the right. I've been told, I haven't found it, the chimneys that is still there for what was known as the Cross Keys Pub.
No.
But the one that actually had the Cross Keys sign?
Yes, it had
Yeah.
Cross
Oh.
Keys sign.
Yeah.
And so maybe about a mile in that direction is actually where Cross Keys was.
Yeah.
And actually, some people said it looked more like 2 bottles of bourbon, maybe kind of crossed like that, but it
It
wasn't.
was a pub after all.
It was, and it was a store and a pub. So I'm not sure how they got along with that stuff. But, anyways, we wanted you to see this,
Yeah.
and if you want to read signs, there's all kinds of signs. It's up to you folks. It's not raining now, or we will continue back up over the hill. Your choice, okay?
Everybody just stands still.
Okay.
Well,
Have you folks been here before?
Yeah.
Please. Please.
Here with Bill Miller, and we parked up there where you got the interpretive marker.
Yes.
yeah,
Do yourself a favor, don't park there. 'Cause
Yeah.
that guy doesn't
we turned
like-
around there.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't like people.
Yeah, we turned around.
I was there many years ago, and I
Somebody-
parked there so I could walk out here. And I came out, and he said, "This is private property."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, it's a state marker."
Exactly.
Yeah,
And he said, "Get out."
Yep.
That's-
So we had
That's
to leave.
him.
somebody stole that sign from Manassas, inside of Manassas.
Did they really?
They did last summer. They sold it. Now they had to have wedged it out pretty well because the things were